October 21st, 2009, St. Martin's, Missouri. At 6 p.m., 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten told her mother, Patricia, "I'm going to play with the neighbor kids," and left home. This blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, the embodiment of innocence, was just heading to her friend's house a few blocks away. It was an ordinary Wednesday evening. The sun hadn't set yet. Elizabeth wore her pink jacket, walking with cheerful steps. Her family expected her back by 7:30 p.m. for dinner. Elizabeth Olten never came home.
Truly is a family's worst nightmare. In this case, 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten from Cole County has been missing since yesterday evening. Good evening, I'm Angie Bailey.
That night, the missing person report filed with Missouri police would mark the beginning of one of the state's most shocking murders. Because the person who killed this innocent child was her 15-year-old neighbor, Alyssa Bustamante. And the motive? It had nothing to do with money, anger, or revenge. This is the story of real brutality, and the story of a murder coldly planned by a real 15-year-old girl. Alyssa Bustamante. Problem child or monster? Alyssa Marie Bustamante was born on January 28, 1994, in Missouri. To outsiders, she seemed like a normal American family's child, but the reality was far from that. Alyssa's father, Cesar Bustamante, had abandoned the family when she was still a baby. Her mother, Michelle Bustamante, was a drug addict constantly in trouble with police. Little Alyssa grew up with her siblings at her grandparents' house, Karen Brooke and Gary Brooke. The Brooke family tried to give Alyssa a normal childhood. They sent her to school, included her in social activities. From the outside, Alyssa seemed like a normal high school student too. She had friends, was active on social media, and was interested in music. However, in 2007, when she was just 13 years old, the first concerning signs appeared. Alyssa had started self-harming. She was cutting her arms and legs with razor blades. When her grandmother noticed this, she immediately took her to a psychiatrist. Dr. Ellen Wilson, after evaluating Alyssa, diagnosed her with depression and prescribed antidepressant medications. The family tried to keep this situation secret. After all, they lived in a small town where everyone knew everyone. But the medications weren't working. Alyssa's self-harming behaviors continued. Worse yet, she was starting to enjoy it. She would show her cuts to friends, thinking this made her cool. In 2008, Alyssa's behaviors became even more concerning. She started watching violent content online. She searched for murder scenes and torture videos on YouTube. She made death and darkness themed posts on her MySpace account. The most striking detail was this: Alyssa would tell her friends, "One day I'm going to kill someone." But everyone saw this as just goth-style teenage behavior. No one took it seriously. The birth of the plan. In October 2009, Alyssa Bustamante's behavior changed dramatically. She was no longer just consuming violent content. She seemed to be actively planning something. On October 15th, Alyssa started doing something strange in the wooded area near their home. She was digging holes, 2 holes, each approximately 1.5 meters long, 60 centimeters wide, human-sized holes. When her grandfather Gary noticed Alyssa's strange hobby, he asked, "What are you doing out there?" Alyssa answered as if nothing was wrong. "Just bored. Just digging dirt." Gary Brooke found this normal. After all, teenagers could exhibit strange behaviors during adolescence, but he didn't know that his granddaughter had much darker plans in her mind. On October 17th, Alyssa wrote in her diary, "I want to kill someone. I want to experience this feeling. I wonder what it will be like." This wasn't just a fantasy. Alyssa was actively planning. She was researching painless killing methods on the internet. She was trying to learn which vital organs would be more effective to attack. But the most terrifying detail was this: Alyssa had also chosen her victim, Elizabeth Olten. 9 years old, trusting, innocent child. And most importantly, a neighbor child who would easily trust her. On October 19th, Alyssa had sent a message to her friend Jennifer Meyer. "I'm going to do something big soon, and everyone will remember me." On October 20th, she wrote this note in her diary: Tomorrow is the day. I'm ready, the holes are ready, the plan is ready. I'm just waiting for the right moment. October 21st, 2009, Wednesday. For Alyssa Bustamante, that day had come. The murder night details. October 21st, 2009, Wednesday, 5:45 p.m. Alyssa Bustamante was watching outside from her house windows. She was waiting for the time when Elizabeth Olten would leave home. This wasn't coincidence. Alyssa had been studying Elizabeth's routines for weeks. She knew that Elizabeth played with neighbor kids every Wednesday evening. She knew she left home around 6 p.m. and returned for dinner at 7:30 p.m. This gave her a perfect time window. At 6 p.m., Alyssa saw Elizabeth. The little girl was wearing her pink jacket, walking cheerfully down the street. She was going to her friend's house. Alyssa immediately took action. She left the house and intercepted Elizabeth's path. "Hey, Elizabeth!" she called out. "Where are you going?" Elizabeth turned and looked. She knew Alyssa. They were neighbors. "I'm going to Jenny's house to play," she said innocently. "I can show you a nice place too," said Alyssa with a smile. "I found a great playground in the woods. Plus, it's on the way to Jenny's house." Elizabeth hesitated, but Alyssa was a big kid, her neighbor. She must be trustworthy. "Okay," said Elizabeth, "but I can't be too late. My mom is expecting me for dinner." "Don't worry, it won't take long," said Alyssa. She was thinking, "it won't take long" to herself, but in a completely different sense. The two started walking toward the woods together. Elizabeth was excited. She was going to see a new playground. Alyssa, however, was completely calm. She was going over the final details of her plan in her head. When they reached the woods, Alyssa led Elizabeth to the area where she had previously dug the holes. This place was about 400 meters from the houses, far enough that no one could hear. "Here it is," said Alyssa. "Isn't it beautiful?" Elizabeth looked around. There were only trees and holes. "What are these holes?" she asked. "Oh, they're for playing," said Alyssa. Then she approached Elizabeth from behind. What happened from this point on could only be learned from Alyssa's later confessions, and what she told was completely chilling. Alyssa attacked Elizabeth from behind. First, she grabbed her throat and threw the little girl to the ground. Elizabeth couldn't understand what was happening. She couldn't breathe. "Please, let me go!" Elizabeth tried to scream, but Alyssa's hand was on her throat. Alyssa cut Elizabeth's throat with the knife she had brought with her, but this wasn't enough. Alyssa wanted more excitement. She picked up a stone from the ground and hit Elizabeth's head, again and again. 9-year-old Elizabeth Olten lost her life at the hands of her neighbor, unable to understand what was happening. Alyssa buried Elizabeth's body in one of the holes. The other hole remained empty. Later, in police interrogations, she would confess that hole was for the next victim. After committing the murder, Alyssa returned home. She washed her hands, changed her clothes, then she had a normal dinner with her family, as if nothing had happened. The disappearance and search operation. At 7:30 p.m., Elizabeth Olten still hadn't returned home. Her mother, Patricia Price, began to worry. Elizabeth always came on time, especially for dinner. Patricia first called the neighbors. She called Jenny's house, but Elizabeth had never gone there. At 8 p.m., Patricia called the police. "My daughter is missing," she said in panic. "She's 9 years old. She left home at 6 p.m. but still hasn't returned." Missouri State Police immediately took action. Child disappearances were very rare in small towns. This was a serious situation. At 9 p.m., search and rescue teams were deployed. Police, firefighters, volunteers. Everyone was looking for Elizabeth. The entire neighborhood had come out onto the streets. Alyssa Bustamante also came to help. She was playing the role of a concerned neighbor perfectly. "I love Elizabeth so much," she told the police. "She's such a sweet child. What could have happened to her?" Police Chief Troy Alberg was coordinating the search operation. "Children usually get lost near their homes," he told his team. "Concentrate the search within a 1-kilometer radius." The search continued throughout the night. With flashlights, dogs, helicopters, every area was searched, but no trace could be found. At 6 a.m., the search dogs picked up Elizabeth's scent. The dogs were heading toward the woods. "She came this way," said the dog trainer. "The scent is very strong here." At this moment, Alyssa approached the police. "I know those woods very well," she said. "I can show you the way." No one suspected anything. After all, Alyssa was also a neighbor trying to help. October 22, 2009, Thursday morning at 7:30 a.m. The search dogs found the freshly dug soil in the woods. Police officer David Rice noticed something strange. There were two holes. One was filled, the other was empty. "There's something here," Rice shouted. "Bring shovels." Alyssa was right next to the search team at this time. She was acting as if nothing was wrong. She was even constantly saying, "I hope we find Elizabeth." At 8:15 a.m., they started digging the first hole. At 30 centimeters deep, they found Elizabeth Olten's body. At that moment, everyone in the woods was shocked. Little innocent Elizabeth was lying under the ground. There were cut marks on her throat, signs of trauma on her head. Police Chief Troy Allberg immediately launched a murder investigation. "This is a premeditated murder," he said. "There are two holes. One is empty. This is not a coincidence." Who could be the suspect? Who was the last person to see Elizabeth? In interviews conducted with neighbors, it emerged that the last person to see Elizabeth was Alyssa Bustamante. And on the same day, the murder was committed, at the same times. At 2 p.m., Detective Craig Cheatham went to their house to interrogate Alyssa. Alyssa didn't panic at all. She was very calm. "When did you last see Elizabeth?" asked Cheatham. "Yesterday evening I saw her leaving the house," said Alyssa. "She was going to Jenny's house." "Did you talk to her?" "Yes, I just said, 'Hello,' that's all." Cheatham sensed something strange. It wasn't normal for a 15-year-old girl to act so coldly in the face of a neighbor child's death. "Alyssa, do you know the wooded area where Elizabeth was killed?" "Yes, I always play there. It's a very sad event." This answer increased Cheatham's suspicions. He decided to investigate more thoroughly. On the evening of October 22nd, police decided to search Alyssa's room. Judge William Collins signed the search warrant. At 8 p.m., the police team came to the Brook house. Alyssa's room was searched thoroughly. What was found in the bedroom was shocking. Blood-stained clothes, internet search history for murder methods, and most importantly, her diary. When Detective Sarah Collins opened the diary, she froze. The contents were a complete confession. October 15th. "I started digging the holes. I feel ready now." October 17th. "I want to kill someone. I want to experience this feeling. I wonder what it's like." October 20th. "Tomorrow's the big day. I chose Elizabeth. She trusts me. It will be easy." And the most shocking October 21st entry, October 21st. "I just killed someone. It was amazing. It was the most exciting thing I've ever done. It's very hard to describe this feeling in words. I wish it had lasted longer. Elizabeth died so easily. Next time I'll be more careful and make it last longer." Next time. Was this just a beginning? The diary also contained these details. "When I cut her throat, I saw the fear in her eyes. This feeling was incredible. I felt powerful. Her life was in my hands. When I crushed her head with the stone, it made different sounds. It was interesting. When burying the body, I didn't feel anything. I was just relieved." Psychological evaluation and interrogation. On October 23, 2009, police officially arrested Alyssa. There was now sufficient evidence, but Alyssa still insisted on denial. "I didn't do anything," she kept saying. "The diary? Those are just fictional stories." However, when police psychiatrist Dr. Richard Friedman began evaluating Alyssa, her true personality emerged. From Friedman's notes, "The patient, Alyssa, is completely devoid of empathy. She places no value on human life. When talking about Elizabeth's death, she shows no signs of sadness or remorse. Her most striking feature is seeing the murder as an experiment. She constantly says, 'I did it because I was curious.' This is classic psychopathic behavior, manipulative, cold-blooded, devoid of empathy." After 72 hours, Alyssa could no longer deny it. The evidence was too clear. On October 26th, she made a full confession. "Yes, I killed Elizabeth. I'm not sorry. I was just curious what it felt like. Now I know." Detective Cheatham asked, "So what do you feel now?" "Nothing. Normal." Do you think about Elizabeth's family? Number, why should I? These answers showed that Alyssa was a complete psychopath. Trial process and public reaction. The Alyssa Bustamante case became one of America's most talked about cases in 2010. The fact that a 15-year-old girl killed her 9-year-old neighbor just out of curiosity shocked everyone. Prosecutor Mark Richardson wanted Alyssa to be tried as an adult. "This is premeditated murder," he said in court. "She may be young, but the crime she committed was completely conscious." Defense attorney Charlie Moreland argued the opposite. "My client is a sick child. She has psychological problems. She needs treatment, not prison." The trial process lasted 2 years. During this time, there were major debates about juvenile offenders in America. Elizabeth's family gave devastating testimony in court. Her mother, Patricia Price, "My daughter just went to play. She was killed by a monster. This child, Alyssa, cannot live in society." Her father, Charlie Olten, "Our innocent 9-year-old daughter was killed to satisfy a pervert's curiosity. We want justice." Alyssa's grandmother, Karen Brooke, tried to defend her granddaughter. "Alyssa is a sick child. Our negligence might have made her this way." Expert witness psychiatrist Dr. Ellen Peterson made this assessment about Alyssa. "This person poses a constant danger to society. She has completely lost her capacity for empathy. The possibility of improvement through treatment is very low." Verdict and sentence. February 15, 2012, the decision day arrived at Cole County Court. Judge Pat Joyce would announce his decision. The courtroom was packed. The press, Elizabeth's family, Alyssa's family, everyone was focused on the decision. Alyssa Bustamante, at age 18, was found guilty of second-degree murder. Not first degree, because it was accepted as being committed in momentary anger. Sentence: 15 years to life imprisonment, possibility of parole after 30 years. When announcing his decision, Judge Joyce said these words: "This court regrets sentencing such a young defendant to a heavy penalty. However, the brutality of the crime committed and public safety require this decision." When the decision was announced, Alyssa showed no reaction. She maintained her composure. Elizabeth's family experienced mixed emotions. Justice had been partially served, but their daughter would never come back. Alyssa Bustamante is currently 30 years old and serving time at Missouri State Prison. She will be eligible for parole in 2042. According to prison records, Alyssa is considered a model prisoner. She has not received disciplinary punishment and participates in educational programs. But psychological reports paint a different picture. She still has empathy problems and shows no remorse. In an interview she gave in 2020, she said, "I apologize to Elizabeth's family, but I can't change the past. I'm just looking forward." Even these words showed how superficial and insincere she was. Elizabeth's family has never recovered from this pain. Her mother, Patricia: "I think about my daughter every day. She would be 20 now. Maybe she would have gone to university." Case analysis and conclusion. The Alyssa Bustamante case contains very important lessons from a criminal psychology perspective. 1. Early warning signs: self-harm, violent fantasies, lack of empathy. All of these were present in Alyssa. 2. Premeditated murder. This was not a spontaneous event. It was a systematic murder planned for weeks. 3. Lack of motive. There were no classic motifs like money, anger, revenge. There was only curiosity. 4th age factor. Being 15 years old doesn't change the brutality of the murder. This case also led to social questioning. How should juvenile offenders be punished? Do psychological disorders excuse crime? Is public safety or rehabilitation the priority? Today, 14 years later, these questions remain unanswered. Elizabeth Olten remained forever 9 years old. She is remembered as an innocent child in a pink jacket. Her family established a foundation to keep her memory alive. Alyssa Bustamante is living in prison. She will be 42 when she gets out. Will she be able to integrate into society? Will she commit crimes again? No one knows. But what is certain is this. This case showed the darkest corners of human psychology, and it reminded us that sometimes the greatest threat can come from where we least expect it. With respect to the memory of Elizabeth Olten, this story is based entirely on real events. Court records, police reports, and diary documents have been referenced.